Picture this. You and some friends are sitting around sharing your favorite ghost stories. The lights are off and the room is lit by candle. Then one of your more adventurous friends pulls out a familiar looking box, and through the candlelight you can make out the words, "An object of wonder and dread, the Ouija board." Instantly, the mood in the room changes. You're nervous, another one of your friends gasps in terror, and the rest lean in. They're excited to try it. And before you know it, the board is out of the box and your friends are all circled around it. They're all looking at you and wondering the same thing. Will you play? The Ouija board that we know and love today has actually been around since the Victorian age, with rough dates going back to the 1890s. However, talking boards are part of historic civilizations around the world for centuries. A board was even once used in ancient Rome to predict their next king. And across the globe, spirit writing was a common method for communication with the dead in China before it was outlawed nearly a century ago. With this information, it is clear that people have been trying to use boards to communicate with the other side for a very, very long time. During the Victorian era, people were no exception and were especially fascinated by ghosts and the entire topic of supernatural for that matter. During this era, many individuals followed a movement called spiritualism, which was the belief that spirits of the dead are present all around us and when prompted, they can communicate with the living. While many people genuinely believed and still believe today that spiritual communication from an invisible realm is possible, some businesses looking to take advantage of the trend quickly cashed in. The modern Ouija board that we become familiar with was patented by Elijah Bond, and the business venture of making and selling the board in the United States was signed over to the Kennard Novelty Company in 1891. People adhering to the spiritualist movement of the Victorian era were already using spirit boards, but Bond's Ouija board was the first widespread commercial attempt to cash in on the idea. It is still unclear if Bond and his partners actually believed that their boards could contact spirits, but they did manage to convince enough people to secure a patent for the design. Early Ouija boards, much like today, were marketed as a toy and game, but back then they were said to be a fun night for the entire family, and plenty of middle-class families bought them for entertainment. A few decades after the board's invention, its popularity finally reached its height. In the 1920s, after the First World War, spiritualism surged in popularity once again, and after so many lost loved ones in the conflict, people were naturally looking for guidance. Many individuals, including celebrities and politicians, turned to the spirit world for answers. Along with the talking boards, people were once again looking into seances and mediums for answers. Even Canada's Prime Minister at the time, William Mackenzie King, actively participated in spiritualism in an effort to contact deceased loved ones and his mentors. It's not a shock that the popularity of the boards exploded in the 1920s as the marketing campaign adapted with the times. Not only were the boards an entertaining time for the entire family, but they were now being marketed as a magic talking board for communicating with spirits. The board even appeared in the spotlight of American folklore when Norman Rockwell created an illustration of its use. The Ouija board continued to enjoy popularity through the mid of the 20th century and was among the top-selling family board games of its time. But this would all come to a screeching halt in 1973, and the use of the ever-popular game abruptly stopped with the release of the cult classic horror film, The Exorcist. The film was very loosely based on the story of Roland Doe's exorcism in the 1940s, but like most Hollywood movies, many elements were added for dramatic effect, including the Ouija board. Even the writer of the novel was convinced that the Ouija boards were connected with evil, and that showed strongly in the film. When the main character of the film was possessed for playing with a Ouija board alone, mass perception of the magic board for families would be forever changed. Soon, Ouija boards and many other practices of spiritualism were swept up in a panic, and people were suddenly terrified with the game that was a staple for most homes just a few years earlier. Shortly after the success of The Exorcist, scenes from books and movies flooded the scene that warned about the Ouija board's dangers and played closely on the new fears that were created just a few years prior. After spiritualism became associated with contacting evil spirits and even the devil, the reputation of the once family-friendly game would be forever intertwined with evil. Despite its unnecessary negative publicity, the Ouija board is being rediscovered and slowly people are becoming more comfortable with its presence. The board's appearance on television shows and movies, showing that it's not an object to conjure evil, but rather a fun game to play with your friends, has certainly helped repair some of the damage, but Still, even today, many people refuse to even be in the same room with one. So, I have to know, what do you guys think of Ouija boards? Have you ever used one? If so, let me know in the comments down below. I would really love to hear your stories. And as of right now, I have no idea if Ouija boards will ever return to their former glory, so for now, for tonight, I think we have to add Ouija boards to our never-ending, always growing Tales from the Dark